So now we've reached the point in the workflow where we are monitoring some of the operating parameters of the well, and we can verify that by either clicking here and selecting view process diagram, or selecting view process diagram from here, and that shows us where this step is in the overall workflow, and we can see that all these tasks ahead were completed, and we're now at this point in the workflow where we are monitoring the operations of the workflow. So this screen here represents just a monitoring console that the control user is looking at, and certain values show up here. Obviously these will come in from the SCADA system, and we are just simulating that here. And what I want to show you is I'm going to simulate an exception. So let's say a certain reading went above normal, and this wellhead pressure is became 500 psi right now, and that's an exception. So in this case, I'm just going to click simulate the exception condition by clicking this button here that will simulate an exception condition. And what this should do is this should automatically send out an event, an exception event, which should trigger an exception workflow. So before I do that, let's quickly take a look at that exception workflow. So So here is the exception workflow, and you can see that it gets triggered on receiving a message. So this event message is based on the common event infrastructure that is the core of this product, and essentially messaging, events, and notification are a core feature of the BPM platform. So the moment an exception message is created, this workflow gets triggered, and you can see that there's a decision that's taken, where the exception is analyzed, and based on the details of the exception, a subflow is invoked, and we have separate subflows to manage various parameters that might be in an exception. So in this case, we're going to show the wellhead pressure parameter going higher than normal, so that should trigger the wellhead pressure exception workflow that we previously developed. And just quickly review what happens in that workflow. It's a very simple workflow. What happens is a notification will get sent out, and then a task is created for the contractor group to review the exception, fix it, and then respond back saying that it is fixed. So first a notification will get sent out, and then the task will get created in the contractor inbox. As far as the notification that is sent out based on the exception, it will look up a set of notification groups, a set of groups to be notified, and send that exception and send that notification. So let's go back to our process portal and trigger that exception. So I'll simulate an exception condition, and of course in the real world these values will constantly get updated as they come in through the log from the SCADA. So, and let's assume that a new value that comes in is above normal, and that triggers this exception. So the moment I do that, from this particular workflow, another workflow has gotten triggered, which is our exception workflow. And obviously for as part of that flow, I should have got a notification telling me that there was an exception, and sure enough, here is a notification that the exception workflow that got triggered, this notification was sent by that exception workflow. And I can see, and I also expect that a task should be created in the contractor swim lane for the contractors to take a look at this exception. So this exception workflow sent a notification to a bunch of groups, said that there was a monitoring exception in the well KOC well 1, and the wellhead pressure reading is now 1500 psi. So So along with that, if my exception workflow has worked, I should see something in the contractor inbox as well. So let me log in as a contractor. And sure enough, there is an exception here, which says review and respond to exception. And since I'm also configured as a contractor, I've received an email notification out here as a contractor telling me that there is a task which needs me to review and respond to an exception. So going back in the process portal, I can take a look at the exception, I go ahead, fix it, and then I can, here I notice it's 1500 psi, KOC well 1, that's the exception, and I can actually go ahead and take care of it and then respond back out here and say that it's fixed. This also helps the workflow to calculate how much time an exception takes to between initiation and the time that it gets fixed. But this shows the extensive notification capability and event-based workflow generation capability that exists within this platform.